Hello, students. Welcome to this lecture on the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. The International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, that is ICESCR, is one of the core global human rights instruments adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on 16 December 1966 and entered into force on 3rd January 1976. It forms part of the International Bill of Human Rights alongside the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The ICESCR recognizes that economic, social, and cultural rights are equally essential to human dignity as civil and political rights. Its main goal is to protect rights related to work, social security, health, education, and participation in cultural life. The covenant establishes that states have obligations to progressively realize these rights using the maximum of their available resources. The body responsible for monitoring implementation is the Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, created in 1985 by the United Nations Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC. Today, the ICESCR has been ratified by over 170 countries, reflecting its universal acceptance and its continuing relevance in promoting socio-economic justice, equality, and human development across the world. The ICESCR was drafted in response to the political and ideological divisions of the Cold War period, when the Western Bloc prioritized civil and political freedoms, while the Socialist Bloc emphasized social and economic welfare. To reconcile these competing visions, the United Nations Commission on Human Rights initiated the drafting process in 1948, which, because of again Cold War, uh, was slowed down, and finally it was completed in 1966. The General Assembly decided to create two separate but complementary covenants, the ICCPR and ICESCR, to cover the full range of human rights articulated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights philosophy is grounded in the idea that freedom from want and deprivation is just as essential to human dignity as freedom from oppression. It obliges governments to promote conditions under which all people can live with dignity, equality, and opportunity. As decolonization spread across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, the covenant became a tool for newly independent. The ICESCR recognizes that economic, social, and cultural rights are equally essential to human dignity as civil and political rights. Its main goal is to protect rights related to work, social security, health, education, and participation in cultural life. The covenant establishes that states have obligations to progressively realize these rights using the maximum of their available resources. The body responsible for monitoring implementation is the Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, that is CESCR, created in 1985 by the United Nations Economic and Social Council. Today, the ICSCR has been ratified by over 170 countries, reflecting its universal acceptance and its continuing relevance in promoting social economic justice, equality, and human development across the world. If we go by the historical context, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights was drafted in response to the political and ideological divisions of the Cold War period, when the Western Bloc prioritized civil and political freedoms, while the Socialist Bloc emphasized social and economic welfare. To reconcile these competing visions, the United Nations Commission on Human Rights initiated the drafting process in 1948, which continued until 1966. The General Assembly decided to create two separate but complementary covenants, the ICCPR and ICESCR, to cover the full range of human rights articulated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The philosophy of this covenant is grounded in the idea that freedom from want and deprivation is just as essential to human dignity as freedom from oppression. It obliges governments to promote conditions under which all people can live with dignity, equality, and opportunity. As decolonization spread across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, the covenant became a tool for newly independent states to assert their right to development and self determination. As we are aware that by 1969, the process of decolonization was over, almost complete, and most of the erstwhile colonies of Asia, Africa, and Latin America were now gaining independence. The ICESCR thus emerged as a milestone document ensuring that global human rights included both liberty and livelihood, both democracy and development. The covenant consists of, if you see the structure of the covenant, this covenant consists of 31 articles divided into five parts, each focusing on a specific aspect of rights, protection, and implementation. Part 1, Article 1 recognizes the right of people to self determination, establishing that all people are entitled to freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Part 2, Articles 2 to 5 outlines the general obligations of states such as non discrimination and progressive realization. Part 3, Articles 6 to 15, contains the substantive economic, social, and cultural rights, including right to work, education, health, and an adequate standard of living. Part 4, Articles 16 to 25, sets up the mechanisms for reporting and monitoring compliance, primarily through the United Nations Economic and Social Council and the Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Finally, Part 5th, Articles 26 to 31, deals with the ratification, amendments, and entry into force. This structure ensures clarity, accountability, and a framework through which the states can demonstrate their progress in fulfilling social economic rights or their obligations towards these rights. Article 1 of the International Covenant deals with right to self determination. It declares that all people have the right of self determination. This right enables people to freely determine their political status and pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. It also includes the right to freely dispose of natural wealth and resources, ensuring that no people are deprived of their own means of subsistence. This provision, common to both the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, as well as International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, reinforces the principle of national sovereignty and economic independence. The right to self-determination has been a cornerstone of decolonization movement, empowering newly independent nations to manage their resources without external interference. It also provides the basis for the right to development, linking human rights with economic progress. States parties must respect this right and promote conditions under which it can be exercised freely. The United Nations has interpreted Article 1 as both a collective and enabling right that forms the foundation for all other human rights, guaranteed under the covenant. Article 2 of the ICESCR deals with progressive realization and non discrimination. It sets out the general obligations of states. It emphasizes the principle of progressive realization, meaning that governments must move as quickly and effectively as possible towards the full implementation of covenant rights using the maximum available resources. However, they are also required to take immediate steps to ensure that there is no discrimination in the enjoyment of these rights. The article prohibits discrimination based on race, color, sex, language, religion, national or social origin, property, or other status. It further calls on states to cooperate internationally to promote the realization of social economic rights. The Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, CESCR, in General Comment number 3, 1990, clarified that while economic limitations may delay full implementation, deliberate inaction is unacceptable. Thus, Article 2 establishes both flexibility and accountability, ensuring that states progressively advance towards the realization of human dignity and equality. Article 3 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights deal with gender equality. This article of the covenant guarantees equal rights for men and women in the enjoyment of all economic, social, and cultural rights. It reaffirms the principle of gender equality set out in the UDHR of 1948 and anticipates the later provisions of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, that is CEDAW in 1979. States parties must adopt laws and policies that eliminate both formal and substantive barriers to gender equality. This includes addressing wage gaps, unequal access to education, employment discrimination, and unequal participation in public life. The CESCR's General Comment number 16, 2005 provides detailed guidance on gender sensitive budgeting, data collection, and legal reforms. The article reflects a global consensus that economic and social progress cannot be achieved without ensuring full equality between men and women. It transforms equality from a moral aspiration into a binding legal obligation, promoting justice and inclusivity in all spheres of social and economic activity. Article 6 deals with the right to work and it recognizes the right of everyone to gain their living by work which they freely choose or accept. This right is central to human dignity, self reliance, and social inclusion. States must take appropriate steps to achieve full employment, technical training, and fair opportunities for all. The ICESCR links this right with international labor standards developed by the ILO, including Convention number 122 on employment policy and Convention number 111 on discrimination in employment. The CESCR's General Comment number 18, 2005 further defines the right to work as access to decent work that respects freedom, equality, and security. It also prohibits forced labor and child exploitation. States are required to develop national employment strategies and ensure equal access for marginalized groups. Article 6 thus recognizes work not merely as an economic activity but as a human right essential for personal fulfillment and national development. Article 7 deals with just and favorable conditions of work. Article 7 guarantees the right of everyone to just and favorable conditions of work. This includes fair wages, equal pay for equal work, safe and healthy working conditions, rest and leisure, and reasonable limitation of working hours. The covenant requires states to ensure a standard of living for workers consistent with human dignity. It also emphasizes the principle of gender equality by mandating equal remuneration for work of equal value. The provision aligns with ILO conventions number 100, equal pay, equal remuneration, and number 155, occupational safety and health. The Covenant General Comment number 23, dated to 2016, clarified that safe working environment, social dialogue, and protection against unfair dismissal are integral to this right. This article lays the foundation for national labor laws and international human rights instruments protecting workers. It reflects the belief that economic productivity must never come at the cost of human dignity, safety, or fairness in employment practices. Article 8 deals with trade union rights. Article 8 recognizes the right of everyone to form and join trade unions of their choice for the protection of their economic and social interests. It ensures that trade unions can function freely without interference from public authorities. It also reaffirms the right to strike subject to national laws, uh, of course. States must protect workers from discrimination or victimization for union activities. The Covenant balances these rights with national security and public safety considerations. This provision reflects ILO Convention number 87, Freedom of Association, and Convention number 98, Right to Organize and Collective Bargaining. The CESCR interprets this article as essential for the democratic functioning of the workplace. It provides the legal and moral foundation for collective bargaining, peaceful protest, and workers' participation in economic decision making. By guaranteeing union rights, Article 8 strengthens social justice and industrial harmony in all societies. Article 9 deals with right to social security. Article 9 recognizes the right of everyone to social security, including social insurance. This right covers all major life contingencies like sickness, disability, maternity, unemployment, old age, and loss of livelihood due to circumstances beyond one's control. It obligates states to establish inclusive social protection systems that provide adequate and accessible benefits. CACR's General Comment number 19, 2008 defines social security as both a human right and a means of realizing other rights such as health, housing, and education. States are expected to avoid discriminatory exclusions and ensure equal access for vulnerable groups. Social security should also be portable and non contributory for those unable to pay. This article laid the groundwork for universal welfare policies and sustainable development goals worldwide. By promoting a protection from social and economic risks, Article 19 seeks to secure human dignity and prevent poverty across all nations. Article 10 affirms the family as the natural and fundamental group unit of society entitled to protection by the state. It obliges governments to ensure assistance to families for their establishment and development. States must provide paid maternity leave and safeguards for mothers before and after childbirth, ensuring they are not discriminated against in employment. The article also prohibits economic and social exploitation of children, including child labor that interferes with education or harms their health and development. It supports the principle of free and informed consent in marriage, promoting gender equality within the family. This article links with the ILO Convention number 138, minimum age for employment, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child, 1989. Together, these provisions make family welfare and child protection central elements of socio-economic policy, ensuring that the most vulnerable members of society are supported and protected by law. Article 11 recognizes the right of everyone to an adequate standard of living for themselves and their family, including uh, adequate food, clothing, and housing, and to continuous improvement of living conditions. It explicitly recognizes the fundamental right to be free from hunger and obligates states to ensure equitable food distribution. The CESCR's General Comment Number 12 for the year 1999 identifies the core components of food security: availability, accessibility, and sustainability. Similarly, General Comment Number 4 of 1991 defines the right to adequate housing as having legal security of tenure, affordability, habitability, and cultural adequacy. This article underpins global initiatives such as the Right to Food Guidelines, FAO 2004, and the UN Habitat Agenda. It recognizes that human dignity requires not only civil freedom but also material well being. Article 11 remains central to modern poverty eradication efforts and the Sustainable Development Goals, that is SDG 1 and 2. Article 12 deals with the right to health. Article 12 guarantees the right of everyone to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. It covers preventive, curative, and rehabilitative care as well as environmental hygiene, maternal and child health, and control of diseases. The Covenant's General Comment Number 14 of the year 2000 clarifies that the right to health is not limited to medical care but extends to underlying determinants such as clean water, sanitation, and safe working conditions. For now, also, the definition of health is not only freedom from disease, but it means an overall state of mental, physical, mental, psychological well-being. States must ensure health facilities are available, accessible, acceptable, and of good quality. This article forms the foundation of global initiatives for universal health coverage, that is UHC, and aligns with World Health Organization WHO principles. Governments are required to allocate resources fairly, prevent epidemics, and make healthcare affordable. Article 12 thus transforms health from a service privilege into a universal right essential for human survival and well being. Article 13 deals with right to education. Article 13 of this covenant recognizes education as a fundamental human right indispensable for personal and societal development. It mandates that primary education shall be compulsory and free for all, while secondary and higher education should be accessible to everyone through progressive introduction of free education. The article emphasizes the role of education in strengthening human rights, tolerance, and peace. The Covenant's General Comment Number 13 of the year 1999 identifies four key elements of this right: availability, accessibility, acceptability, and adaptability. States must also respect academic freedom and allow parents to choose schools for their children consistent with their beliefs. This article provides the foundation for global education initiatives, including UNESCO's Education for All EFA and Sustainable Development Goal number 4. Education under the this particular covenant is seen not merely as literacy training but as empowerment for human dignity and participation in public life. Article 15 deals with the cultural rights and scientific progress. Article 15 recognizes the right of everyone to take part in cultural life, to enjoy the benefits of scientific progress, and to benefit from the protection of moral and material interests resulting from scientific, literary, or artistic protection. This article establishes the link between human creativity and social progress. States are required to preserve cultural diversity, protect heritage, and promote access to science and technology. The Covenant's General Comment number 17, 2005 clarifies that intellectual property should serve human rights and not restrict access to knowledge. The article supports international cooperation through UNESCO conventions, including the Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expression 2005. By affirming the right to culture and science, Article 15 recognizes that development includes both economic progress and the flourishing of human intellect and creativity. Uh, Let us see the monitoring and reporting mechanisms for this covenant. Implementation of this International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights is monitored through periodic reporting to the Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, that is CESCR, under Articles 16 to 25. States parties must submit initial and regular reports detailing measures taken and progress achieved. The CESCR reviews these reports in public sessions and issues concluding observations with recommendations. Since the adoption of the Optional Protocol 2008, individuals and groups can submit complaints about violations provided the state has ratified it. The committee also issues general comments that interpret specific rights and guide states on implementation. Civil society organizations and national human rights institutions play a crucial role in shadow reporting. This monitoring framework transforms the covenant from a mere declaration of intent into a living legal instrument that promotes accountability, transparency, and international cooperation in realizing social, economic, and cultural rights. The significance of covenant is that it remains one of the most important human rights treaties, establishing the legal foundation for socio-economic justice worldwide. It affirms that all human rights, civil, political, economic, social, and cultural, are universal, indivisible, and interdependent. And if we want a true comprehensive regimen of human rights, we need to integrate or implement or ensure the implementation of not only civil and political rights, but also economic, social, and cultural rights, which are as important for human dignity and human development as civil and political rights. The Covenant has inspired numerous national constitutions, such as those of South Africa, Brazil, and Nepal, to incorporate social economic rights. It guides the policies of United Nations agencies like WHO, ILO, UNESCO, and FAO, linking human rights with sustainable development. We just don't want development, we want sustainable development. The Covenant principles underpin the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, especially goals 1. No poverty, 3. Good health, goal number 4. Quality education, and goal number 8. Decent work. Its emphasis on equality, dignity, and development continues to shape global discourse on human welfare. The covenant stands as a living testament to the idea that freedom from want is as vital as freedom from fear in ensuring peace and prosperity for all humankind or humanity. Thank you.